Okay, guys, second to last chapter that we're going to do. We're just about done HST 1, and we're going to be studying the respiratory system. I just want to point out something, though, so you guys don't get confused. If you notice, this says Chapter 19 Respiratory System. It actually should say Chapter 18 Respiratory System. I'm not sure why it says that, but everything else says Chapter 18. So I think they just had a little typo when they did it. All right, let's get to it. So, functions of the respiratory system. So, the basic function of the respiratory system is to get oxygen to your tissues because you need oxygen in order to create energy, and to get carbon dioxide out of your body so that you do not become acidotic. If you have too much carbon dioxide in your blood, your blood will become acidic, and it's called acidosis. It's really bad, and you can die from it. So you got to get the carbon dioxide out. The other thing is that it protects the body from dust and microbes because it goes through the mucus membranes, the cilia that you have in your bronchus, and also we cough, and that's how we get some of that stuff out. And it's also responsible for the production of sound. Now, I think we've talked about this before, I'm not sure, but when somebody is choking, if they are making no sound, then they are truly choking. If they are coughing, if they are hoarse, they're able to talk, but they're hoarse, they can be bright red. As long as they're coughing, then there's air moving. Choking is when there is no air moving, and you know they're choking because there's no production of sound. They can't say anything. That's why the universal sign for choking is when people grab their throat, they are choking. Okay. So there's physical and chemical processes during respiration. Basically, the physical part of the respiration is supplying cells and tissue with oxygen that you need for metabolism. The chemical process is the tissues and the cells using oxygen to produce energy and releasing carbon dioxide. That's the two parts. There's actually three kinds of respiration, though. There's external respiration, internal respiration, and cellular respiration, which is also known as oxidation. Now, internal respiration is kind of like the big one, okay? It is the exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen between the lungs, body, and the outside environment, okay? So it's breathing, taking a breath in, exhaling, that's breathing or ventilation. So you take a breath in, inhale, okay, or inspiration, and you exhale. That's expiration. And that is considered ventilation or breathing. You can use the terms breathing and ventilation interchangeably. The other kind is internal respiration. All right. So internal respiration is a little bit more challenging. Internal respiration is when you have let me back up for a second. I missed a couple of things. When you are breathing out, you're breathing out carbon dioxide. You are also breathing out water during external respiration. So external respiration, when you breathe out, you're breathing out carbon dioxide and water. Okay, internal respiration. So that is the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide between the cells and surrounding lymph. Okay. So if you think about it's actually cellular, it says between the cells and surrounding lymph, but there's blood it's exchanged in the blood as well. So basically it's just diffusion. Okay, so oxygen in the alveoli is higher in concentration in the alveoli. The blood, the concentration is less. So the oxygen moves from the alveoli into the blood. Conversely, the concentration of carbon dioxide in the blood vessels, okay, and surrounding lymph is going to be higher than in the alveoli. So it's going to move out into the alveoli, and that's why we can exhale it. Okay. So deoxygenated blood always carries the CO2. Remember when we talked about blood? Blood is real red when it's fully oxygenated, and it's kind of a deeper red, like, or darker. They usually represented by blue blood vessels in the veins. That's because it's carrying carbon dioxide and not oxygen. So you can't have gas floating around in your body. So carbon dioxide is in the form of hydrogen, of bicarbonate ions. Okay. It's in both the blood plasma and the red blood cells. And this is how it gets out of your body. It stays in an ion form. And then when it gets to your lungs, the CO2 breaks away, it falls apart, and CO2 and water are released. That's why when you're in someplace cold, you can see your breath. It's because it's water moisture, it's water vapor. So you're breathing out carbon dioxide and water. Okay. And finally, we have cellular respiration, also known as oxidation. And you can use those two terms, either or. It involves the use of oxygen to release energy stored in nutrient molecules. And what happens is the oxygen in these nutrient molecules, the cell uses them to break apart and make energy. And then when they make the energy, the waste products are released and the blood takes it away. Okay, so inside the cell, there's a use of oxygen to release energy in nutrient molecules and release waste products. You have to be able to use the nutrients in order to form the energy that you need in your cells. The energy is released in the form of heat. So food, when oxidized, gives off waste products, including carbon dioxide and water vapor. I kind of always thought of it as like, you ever notice when you burn food, there's like nothing left to it. There's no food left to it. It's all waste product, and all of the water is gone. And that's how I think of it. Okay. So oxygen is used to release energy in that cell, and there's going to be waste products left over, and those are taken away by the blood. Okay, this is an example of internal respiration, and you can see here the oxygen is higher in concentration in the alveolus than the blood, so the oxygen goes to the blood. In the blood, the concentration of CO2 is greater than in the alveolus, so that the CO2 goes into the alveolus. If you think about the respiratory system as a whole, there's the three different levels, but they all have to work. Okay, so one of the things that has to happen when you breathe in is that air has to warm. Okay, that's kind of why we have this long respiratory tract, because you want that air to be warm. Now, when we're outside and it's super cold, it's really hard sometimes. A lot of people will put a scarf over their mouth because it feels so cold. The air feels so cold. Your respiratory tract is what warms and filters that air. Because you have to, if you sucked in air and it stayed freezing cold, right, you'd have a problem sucking into your lungs. Your lungs would get cold. So it has to warm. The internal respiration is how we can get the oxygen that's needed to the cells. And the cellular respiration is the use of that oxygen to keep our muscles and cells running. So even though there's three separate processes, it's all part of respiration. And we'll go over that in class too. All right, I think I'm going to leave it there, you guys, and we'll be moving on to the functions and the parts of the respiratory system next.